Hello and welcome to the world of coin collecting. My name is White Cross and I'll be your host on this series that will cover all the different aspects of coin collecting, including some aspects that are usually not included in this amazingly interesting and rewarding hobby. If you are new to the channel, I want to thank you for being with me here today and spending some time with me. If you are one of my returning subscribers, as always, I appreciate your support and your sticking with me through all of the different videos that we make, covering everything from precious metals and bullion to rare coins and collectibles. This series will be unique in that it will cover all sorts of different aspects of coin collecting, and this video in particular is going to be an introduction to this series. So I'm just going to give you a kind of a basic overview of what is going to be included in this series as we progress through the world of coin collecting. And I'm going to start off with a disclaimer that I include at the beginning of all of my videos. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to offer you any kind of financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold rare coins and precious metals for the last 30 or 40 years, in some instances with some of these pieces closer to 50 years. And I also like to begin each of my videos with a concept that we can fold back into the subject matter that we're talking about. In this case, because we are talking about coins, I wanted to start with a definition of what coins are. And there are as many definitions for coins as there are coins out there, but the definition that most experts seem to agree on is that a coin is usually a flat piece of metal issued by a governmental authority as a form of money. Now, it's very important to understand that there are a gulf of differences between some concepts of what constitutes coins, what constitutes money, and what constitutes a legal authority that is granted the authority to coin money. Because in many instances and in many parts of this hobby, that authority is either questioned or non-existent or open to debate. And we'll talk about that as we go deeper into this series. Again, this video is just going to be kind of an overview where we talk about some of the fascinating aspects and facets of this incredibly enriching and rewarding hobby. I want to talk about the whys, why you should collect coins. Why does anybody collect coins? So we're going to start there. And I think that this is particularly important to younger kids. So if you are a young numismatist, or if you are parents of children, I want to stress that I think coin collecting is one of the most significant factors that you can give your kids when it comes to the more esoteric areas of education. We're talking about things like economics and business. We're talking about things like culture. We're talking about finance. We're talking about history. We're talking about wealth. And all of these factors are live, living, and active elements of coin collecting. So I'm going to go back over them just a little bit, and we'll talk about each of those individually as we progress through the pieces that you see laid out before you. The benefits of coin collecting, again, especially for kids. And I want to stress that as I am talking about this series, I am going to bring a lot of personal experience into it. This is a subject that is clearly near and dear to my heart, but it's also one that has played a significant role, perhaps the most significant role in whatever success I have achieved in my life. I owe all or almost all of it to a foundation in coin collecting, and we're going to talk about exactly what I mean by that. I mentioned economics before. Coin collecting really starts to give individuals, whether you are a young numismatist, if somebody who has picked up coins from change before, or somebody who has been collecting for decades like I have, it really gives you a solid foundation in economics and business. It discusses or it plays into things like global trade and exchange rates. Anytime you are talking about the currency of a particular country, it stands to reason that you will begin to understand that there are separate currencies for almost every country in the world. And it will also begin to dawn on you that those countries differ in terms of language, in terms of culture, population, geography, natural resources, and just about every other factor. But it all comes down to what is the currency, what is the coinage that that country is using, the economics of that country, the economics of global trade. If we know that Mexico, for example, uses a peso and the United States of America uses a dollar, are they the same thing? How do they differ if they aren't the same thing? These subtle differences from currency to currency, from nation to nation, really start to build the understanding, the most basic foundation of business, especially in terms of global business and economics. I mentioned briefly before culture. And this is one of the most significant things that I have found as I have matured through coin collecting, that coins offer a glimpse into the culture from whatever country has issued the coin. And that's not just current pieces, that's historical pieces going back sometimes hundreds of years, going back sometimes thousands of years. You really start to get an image of what different countries use in terms of culture, what their different traditions are, what their different languages are, what their jurisdictions and what their territories are. Who used these pieces and under what circumstances did they use them? Were the coins bilingual or trilingual? Did these coins circulate before people were educated enough to have common use language? Were they images that represented authority or power or wealth? All of these things are other aspects of that cultural tradition that you find in the collection of coins. I mentioned finance also, and that's plays into the idea of global business, but more on a micro level rather than a macro level. You start to understand that countries or businesses within countries or individuals within those countries needed or still need coins in order to operate whatever finances they are, from household finances to running businesses within the country to running businesses around the globe. All of these factors come into play with the understanding of what coins represent. Again, it's a fascinating field for adults to pick up, but I think it is a very strong, powerful hobby for parents to encourage in their children. Even if it's just taking coins out of circulation or buying a few coins from a grab bag at your local coin shop, believe me, the dividends it pays are amazing. And that brings me to dividends, a play on the word on wealth. This is a hobby that it can be taken pretty much any way you want to. And my subscribers who have watched my videos before know that I like to stress the personal journey of whatever it is that you are seeking in whatever it is the hobby is that you are watching this video for. So if you have watched the series on silver or gold or bullion, this series on coins, I want to stress that this is a personal journey. This really is something that you need to decide for yourself, but that's one of the most beautiful things about this hobby. It is whatever you want it to be, and it can be molded to shape anything that you want. Any aspect of this hobby is correct if it's what you are after, and I'm hoping that I can give you some of that muscle power, some of that history, some of those ideas to really make this hobby as rewarding for you as it has been for me. But the wealth aspect of it transcends the hobby. The coins that I bought with my paper route money back in the 1970s and 80s, some of them have grown exponentially in value. And it's not the coins that I owned necessarily, it's coins within this hobby. Now, I want to stress that past success is no indication of future results. That's not the way any of this works. But there are aspects to coin collecting that, if understood in the right concepts and the right precepts, will give you a really solid foundation towards other types of investments. So if you want to call your coin collection an investment, and I'm not going to argue with that, although some people may see it more as a collection, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It will also give you some insight into more traditional investments. It will help you to understand things like markets. It will help you when you're looking at the difference between wholesale and retail. It will help you when you're understanding spreads, and if you're understanding current market trends and how certain pieces can become more valuable over time, or even more significantly, how certain pieces can lose value over time. All of these are facets of the hobby of coin collecting. Again, something that I really feel should be encouraged in younger kids. If you have the opportunity, grandkids or children, or even if it's just something that you are interested in yourself, believe me, it will open up a dynamic, amazingly interesting world for you. And again, what success I've had in my life, I owe primarily to the pursuit of coins and the understanding of coin collecting. And the last thing I wanted to talk about really briefly was history. It's pretty self-evident. You can look at any of the pieces here in front of you, and there is a world of history open to you, whether it's the dawn of coinage and some of these first coins that were struck from the natural alloy of gold and silver. If you're talking about how Americans' interest overseas in immediately following World War II in places like Saudi Arabia with pieces that were struck by America for foreign countries. The history is so apparent and easily accessible when you've got something tangible in your hands. It really does become a fascinating area, and the history is really something that has meant a lot to me on my personal journey and something that I am still learning about on a regular basis. So some of the benefits to coin collecting, some of the things that you can get from this hobby, some of the things that it will enrich your life with if you decide to pursue coin collecting. And if you are an old school coin collector like I am, I'm hoping that you're shaking your head and nodding and agreeing, because you too have probably experienced all of these aspects of the wonderful hobby of coin collecting, and all of this is available to you if you pursue coins. Next thing I wanted to talk about was, what are some of the things that are collected in a coin collection? And that sounds almost like kind of a silly question to ask. Coin collection should be a collection of coins, right? Technically, the term is numismatics. Numismatics is the collection and study of coins. But the traditional definition of numismatics also includes areas that are outside of what some people would consider typical things that are collected. This is a 100 sarang note from Tibet from right after the end of World War II, during and after the end of World War II. This is a piece of currency. This actually was the money that circulated in Tibet in that period of time. Currency collecting is also part of numismatics. That is one of the other things that people do if they collect coins. Now, you don't have to collect currency. You don't have to collect anything you don't want to collect again. This is a fantastic personal journey, and it really can be a definition that you make for yourself, whatever it is you want to collect. I'm going to hit you with some more controversial things that I collect, that I consider part of my broader coin collection. And there are some items that I do collect that most people would consider far outside of the scope of numismatics, but I believe they are directly tied to it. So let's keep on going. Traditionally, coins are domestic and foreign and ancient, sometimes called light side, dark side. The American market, where I am located, is primarily in the domestic coin field, but there are people who collect coins from all around the world and from every civilization that has ever minted coins before, and that is part of the beauty of this hobby. Some examples of American coinage. This is a 1906 Indian cent, and this is graded by PCGS. This is a holder that was created by what we call a third-party grader. This is somebody that has no vested interest in the grade assigned to a coin, and this coin has been encapsulated or slabbed in the vernacular of coin collecting by PCGS, one of the most trusted third-party graders out there. An example of a domestic American coin that might be collected by an American coin collector. This is an example of a foreign coin that could be collected. This one slabbed or certified by NGC, one of the other two top-tier third-party graders. This is a rupee from India from about 1903. This is a special kind of rupee. This is a special kind of big presentation silver coin. And again, this goes to show a little bit of what I was talking about. You're talking about language. You're talking about script. There is not a single word on this coin that I can understand as an English speaker, but I know where to look to find this information, and it has opened up my eyes to a world of other languages and other cultures. This is a fascinating aspect of our hobby. Again, one of the many ways that this hobby has enriched my life. An excellent example of a foreign coin. I mentioned this one before. This is one of the earliest coins ever made. This is a piece from Ionia, and this dates to about 600 BC. This is one of the earliest coins ever made. This piece is a coin from the era called the dawn of coinage, the very beginning of what we think of when we think of coins. A fascinating aspect to one of the other areas that we will definitely be talking about a little bit later. So some of the areas that people collect: domestic coins, foreign coins, and ancient coins. Those are kind of the most traditional. We also talked a little bit about currency with that Tibetan piece. There is a world of currency out there. Fascinating pieces made by every country around the world going back hundreds of years. It is a field unto itself, but it is also part of numismatics. It is part of what things that people often collect along with or instead of coins. Another area that people collect is what we call exonumia. Exonumia includes things like medals and tokens, and I have here a gorgeous example of a medal, this by Augustus St. Gaudens, an award given at the 1893-1894 Columbian Exposition in Chicago, celebrating the anniversaries of Christopher Columbus discovering America. This is a beautiful medal by one of America's most important coin designers, artists, and medalists, Augustus St. Gaudens. Coin collectors will remember St. Gaudens as the designer of the famous $20 gold piece, also called the Saint, specifically because it was designed by Augustus St. Gaudens. He also designed the $10 Indian gold piece, an equally attractive and highly collectible coin. Exonumia, just one other facet of coin collecting. Now, those are the traditional areas of coin collecting. You've got coins, domestic, foreign, and ancient. You have exonumia, people who collect metals, people who collect tokens. You have currency, people who collect paper money and all the derivatives of paper money. But I like to push those boundaries, and if you've watched any of my earlier videos, especially the videos on bullion and collectible old bullion, you know that I also feel that this is an area, an aspect of numismatics. It has been slow to be recognized by the coin collecting field in general, but I have noted that some of the major third-party graders, companies like NGC, have started to encapsulate small silver bars, and that PCGS has encapsulated small gold bars in the past with those World Trade Center recovery pieces. I'll put a link down below so you can find that information in some of the earlier videos where we talked about that. I feel that bullion is a very closely related aspect to coin collecting. Now, not every piece of bullion, not every company that has ever made it, but when you're talking about vintage bullion pieces, you're talking about pieces that are struck by a die often. They are made in the same manufacturing type facilities. They are made of the same materials that precious metal coins are made from. They have history. They have collectors who are ravenous for them. They have all of the different shared aspects that coins have, or that at least areas of exonumia have. And for that reason, I feel like some bullion pieces really do represent an area of numismatics that is, as of yet, somewhat unrecognized. But if you like getting in on the ground floor, if you like pushing your boundaries, and if you really like kind of stretching what your beliefs can be, I think numismatics should include, or could include easily, things like vintage bullion. And I mentioned before this piece from the United States of America, minted for Saudi Arabia. This, most people would consider to be a coin. This does not have a face value. This was not issued by the country in which it circulated, and it does not have a face value. Is it a coin? We know for a fact that it was minted by the United States Mint, but it is a bullion product. In my opinion, this is a rare, scarce, early gold bullion product. And I think this is a fantastic example of how bullion can be included in a more traditional numismatic coin collection. And I want to push that boundary even further, and this is going to be a little bit more controversial. I think that a coin collection can also include objects of virtue. Objects of virtue are items that are made traditionally out of precious metals, but that don't have a specific purpose other than to delight the viewer. An example of an object of virtue would be something like a Fabergé egg. We know they're historic. We know when they were made. We know where they were made. We know they're made of precious metals. We know their audience. And they don't serve much of a purpose other than to delight the collector. For these reasons, I feel like certain objects of virtue, and I'll put a definition up here so you can see what I'm talking about, small objects created from precious metals to be admired as works of art or conceived with more practical purposes. So Fabergé eggs, maybe cigarette cases made in the turn of the century, made out of precious metals. And I even have an example here of something that is going to be even more controversial to some people. This is a sterling silver beer mug. This is made by an artist named James Phipps. This was made in London in the year 1793. How do we know that? This piece has hallmarks on it that tell us exactly what it was made from, who made it, where it was made, the year it was made. Anytime you start talking about something that is precious metals that tells you where it was made, when it was made, and who made it, you are sharing a lot of the attributes with traditional coins. And therefore, I think that it is logical for me to include objects of virtue in my coin collection as an extension of my coin collection. Again, it's really based on whatever it is that you want your collection to be. And while purists would scoff at that idea, I could argue pretty strongly that these are legitimate pieces that should be included along with coins, if not in a primary coin collection. So just some of the items that you can include with a coin collection. Foreign domestic coins, ancient coins, currency, exonumia, things like metals and tokens. I would even say that some pieces of classic bullion, vintage bullion, and I would argue that some objects of virtue could also be included easily in a broader definition of what constitutes numismatics. Let me know what you think about it. Don't just like or not like. Leave a comment down below. Let's have a discussion. And I want to touch on some of the styles of collecting before we wrap this up, and I want to tell you some of the other videos that we have coming in the series. There are as many different styles of collecting as there are coin collectors. Again, one of the beauties of this hobby is that you can really do it in whatever manner you want to. But some of the more traditional methods of coin collecting are people who collect by type. That is, people who collect a particular style. We mentioned before the Augustus St. Gaudens piece. If you like $20 gold pieces, you can certainly collect $20 gold pieces. If you like gold coins, you can collect gold coins. If you like particular series, if you like pieces that are made by one designer, or if you like a particular denomination, you can collect those. If you like a particular country, either a country that is in existence today or a country that disappeared centuries ago, that is a perfectly legitimate, perfectly valid, and fantastic way to collect coins. I am a personal believer in a very specialized type of collecting called Box of 20, and we will definitely get into that one later on as we discuss in detail some of these other series and some of these other styles and types of collecting. And I mentioned before ephemera. If you are somebody who wants to collect exonumia, if you want to collect tokens, if you want to collect metals like the St. Gaudens piece, if you want to collect objects of virtue like these amazing Victorian sterling silver grape shears with Aesop's fable fox and some grapes on it. Again, when you're talking about something that is made from precious metals, that is has an indicator on it, who made it, what city it was made in, what year it was made in, to me it's a logical progression and one of the things that you can easily collect in a series of coins if you want to. So that gives you kind of an overview of what this video series is going to be. I want to touch on some of the things that we will definitely talk about. We talked about the styles of collecting most recently. I will go into deeper detail. I don't know if I'll create videos for each style out there, but we'll certainly talk about some of the techniques that people use when it comes to the styles of collecting. We're going to talk about coin grading. What constitutes a coin grade? How is a coin graded? In this example, you see it says AU58. That's an example of a coin that has been graded by a third-party grader, about uncirculated, with a numeric grade of 58 on the Sheldon scale of 1 to 70. We will take a much deeper dive into how to grade coins. We'll talk about proper handling of coins. We'll talk about proper storage of coins. What are the best techniques for storing your collection? We talked before in many of the other videos that I've made about the concept of attrition and how over time pieces tend to get lost. They get stolen, they get damaged, they get melted, they get lost, they get destroyed. Attrition is one of the main factors that plays into how valuable and scarce a coin can be. And we're going to talk about the different ways that you can make sure your collection is as protected as it can be as we talk about proper handling and storage. And we'll talk about third-party graders. We mentioned a few of them. We talked about PCGS and NGC. This is a now defunct third-party grader. This is a fascinating aspect of coin collecting, and we will go much deeper into it. We'll talk about the Wild West era of third-party grading when it first began to appear in the 1980s, and how we've progressed now, coming up on 50 years since we really first started using third-party graders to talk about the condition and scarcity of coins. These are just some of the subjects we're going to be breaching in this world of coin collecting. If you have any questions about the items that I talked about here today, if you would like to discuss whether or not you believe objects of virtue or bullion belong in a coin collection, I would love to have that discussion with you as well. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Remember, this is a community, and I look forward to interaction with each of you. If you have any suggestions on areas and aspects of coin collecting and numismatic that you would like to see me make a video on, by all means leave a comment down below. I have probably 7 or 8 videos so far in mind for this video series, and I imagine we can probably go much deeper into that if there is interest in any particular aspect of it. And as always, I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as you go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.